I think it's working. Tom, do you want to make the introductions?
Good evening, everyone. This is Sephardic World brought to you by the Sephardic Genealogical Society. As always, we welcome our patrons who are here with us, and we welcome our viewers on YouTube. And we are broadcasting now live on YouTube because of the European Days of Jewish Culture, in which we participate with this Q&A. The European Days of Jewish Culture is a European-wide event that has been organized since 1999 to highlight the diversity and richness of Judaism in its local, regional, national, and international historical importance, with the firm intention of promoting dialogue, recognition, and exchange through conferences, concerts, performances, guided tours, and other activities, which simultaneously throughout the continent. As you know, this is all financed by the European Commission. Uh, there have been coordinated events at European level since 1999, giving cohesion, visibility, and relevance to the activities organized. And now we'll go to the questions that have put to us in writing through email.
Shall I ask the first question? This is from George, and he says, "My Abraham family, I was told, came from Hungary. Now I know that they went from Spain to Hungary. I have my tree from about 1850 till now, all in Hungary and Romania. How can I research and connect all the missing years until 1850?" Do you want to go first?
Okay. Well, first of all, Abraham is a very common name. In fact, very Jewish, very common, and you can find it everywhere. Second, it looks to me like an Ashkenazic surname. And when I see that there are 3 centuries of evidence missing between the leaving Spain and 1850 in Hungary and Romania, that leaves me doubting that this is really the case. What I would advise is start with yourself, research your own family, go back from generation to generation, don't generalize, and always go after documentary evidence. That said, you can make use of Jewish Gen, Family Search, and other sources. And if I may suggest, you can learn Hungarian to be able to read Hungarian archives and books. And Hungarian is not easy. It's related to Finnish and it's hellishly difficult. Romanian, on the other hand, is more easy. If that is not your intention, you can hire professional genealogists from Hungary and Romania who can do the work for you. Who will also be able to read books in Hungarian and to find relevant sources, etc. And I would say give up on the thought that Abraham might have come from Spain, because that's a long way off from where you are now. That's about it.
Whilst I would agree, I mean, there is, of course, always a theoretical possibility because Hungary is just on the edge of the Ottoman territory. So, I mean, it's theoretically possible that somebody could have crossed. I mean, one way of checking that is finding an Abraham relative who is willing to take a male relative willing to take a Y-DNA test and test that with the Avatenu DNA project, who work with family tree DNA, they should be able pretty quickly, if it's an Ashkenazi lineage, they should be able to identify that pretty quickly. If it is a Sephardic lineage, which seems unlikely, they would be very, very interested in looking at that. But yeah, so the second question, and by the way, anybody in Zoom or YouTube is very welcome to post their questions. Our second question is from John. He writes, my Sephardic lineage branch is from Castoria, currently in Greece. Known from documentations, US manifest, naturalization, census, etc., and family law. It has occurred to me that the surname Peserillo might indicate a possible Italian tie further back. What is the likelihood of that being picked up en route from Spain to Castoria after the expulsion? I have found little in the way of online research avenues for Castoria, and I recognize there is little chance of finding actual documentation, but any ideas for research would be appreciated. Tom, do you want to?
Yeah, can you open up?
Oh, sorry, I do beg your pardon. Let me. There's quality broadcasting, folks. Yeah.
I think the third slide first.
Oh.
No, there should be another. Yeah, this one.
Okay, great.
Okay. Peserillo from Castoria. As our questioner said, there are not a lot of Jewish archives available for Castoria. So how to go about it? First, I would say study a bit its history, for that will give you an indication of where to look for archives. In the Middle Ages, Castoria was part of Byzantium, Bulgaria, Serbia, Albania, and that is only a few of the countries that took possession of Castoria in the Middle Ages. So it's a bit of a mess. In the 1380s, the Ottoman Empire got hold of Castoria, and he did so until 1913, when Castoria became Greek. So your sources, for your sources, I advise you to find non-Jewish sources. Family Search has a page about archives for Castoria under Greece rule. And they are fairly detailed how to go about it. They have the names and addresses of archives. They have advice of how to approach them. And they give examples of the sort of pages that you may find. Of course, everything is in Greek. So you may need transcribers to transcribe sources, and you may need artificial intelligence to translate it all. Or you can hire a professional genealogist from Castoria or from Greece. And maybe Greece also has a genealogical society that may be able to help you. But you do need someone who understands Greek. This will get you back to 1913, and because those archives will hold details about people born earlier, you may be able to get back to 1850. But before that, you will have to consult the Ottoman archives. And that's a whole chapter in itself. First of all, you have to go to the Ottoman archives yourself. And most likely they will still not let you in. Most likely you will have to be a Turkish citizen to delve into the Ottoman archives. And given the period that you're looking for, there are two difficulties. One is the language, which will be Ottoman, of course, and one of them is the script, which will also be Ottoman. And there's almost no one alive today able to read those archives, except for a handful of specialists. So you may need to find one of them. For example, you can approach Michael Waas. He can do it himself, maybe, or he may know the names of other people. So the obstacles here are name changes, languages. Then on to the next slide. You wrote that the name Pesarello might be Italian. I went to the website of Sephardic Gen, run by Jeff Mauka. It has a consolidated database of everything. And I ran a search for names phonetically like Pesirello. And it comes up with this. And I advise you to look at numbers 54, 55, 56. And all of them have as their origin surnames in Bider's dictionary of Italian, France, and Portuguese Jewish surnames. So you can buy that from Avotaino, look up those names and find references to literature and to the places where these names were found by Alexander Bider. And the other names are too far off to be similar to Pesirello, I think. This is the second page of names that I found, but the first page, I don't think there's anything that is even remotely similar to Pesirello. And otherwise, you can use family search and Jews again. And using those, I found some some Pesirellos, not many, but enough to be of use. And you can, with the name Pesirello, Google it. If you want to find something about the name Palash, for example, you find 9 million hits. There's way too many, but Pesirello will limit your results. You can further limit your results by putting the name Pesirello between brackets. No, between these things. Brackets, I think. And that will give you exact search results. And then you can go through all the variants, also the ones that are in the list from Bider. And you can further limit your results by adding a tilde and the general term genealogy. This will get you results only in genealogical websites. I don't think the name is from Spain. Matilda Tegler has a database of names found in literature about Spain. And the name Pesirello doesn't come up there, nor its variants. And that database is also on the website of Jeff Malka. And that's it.
Just to add to that, Alexander Bider at the moment is actually writing another volume on Jewish surnames. I'm not sure it's of the Eastern Mediterranean or Middle East, but it will surely include Greece. I mean, it's a reasonable assumption, I think, that because Castoria was originally a Romagnol community and also, of course, had Sephardim, but a Romagnol name would presumably be Greek. I'm not sure if Tom mentioned, but I saw on Jewish Gem that there are other researchers actually looking for the surname, so maybe be in touch with them. But also, you didn't tell us what date the family left the town, which obviously passed from the Ottoman Empire to Greece in 1912, 1913. Under the Ottoman Empire, the Jewish community would have kept its own records. I'm afraid I don't know what's happened to them. They may well have been lost. Theoretically, the Greek state kept records of births, marriages, and deaths from 1914, although probably not until 1920, 1930. And these are held by the General State Archives. It's also possible that Castoria appears in the Ottoman census of 1831, 1844, 1881, and 1905, which is more detailed. And the Greeks had census in 1920, 1928, 1940. The Greek census again will be in the General State Archives. The Ottoman one, presumably in the Ottoman State Archives in Istanbul. And of course, don't forget secondary sources. So things like newspapers, and the National Library of Israel has a Jewish newspaper archive. School records, for example, from the Alliance Israélite Universelle, and trade directories and other sources as well. And it's also just worth thinking about whether family members might have held a foreign citizenship or protection. That's often from the French or the Italians or the British, or indeed even the Spanish, because if they did, then in the consular archives of those countries, you might be able to find something. But I think as John says, it's a bit of a challenge. Our third question I will leave for Tom. Richard asks, I've gone back as far as I can in England through the Bevis Marks records, looking for my De Chavez and Nunes Cardozo families. Where do I go from here? I know there were families with the same name in Amsterdam, but I can't find the missing link between the Amsterdam and London families. Tom.
Yeah, can you open up the PowerPoint?
I will do that. Yeah, sorry, it's different places on my computer. Here we go.
I haven't been able to find a link between Amsterdam and London too. The names, the given names, do not match. They are different in Amsterdam from those that we find in London. And London, the eldest married male with the name Núñez Cardozo was an Isaac de David Cardozo. And both names do not show up in Amsterdam. The name Núñez Cardozo does turn up in the annual accounts and in other registers of the Bevis Marks synagogue, which are kept by the London Metropolitan Archives, and which were digitized by the National Library of Israel, and which are being processed by Anasau Hebraica. And in there, in the annual account of the year 1700, Moses and Isaac Núñez Cardozo are on the poor lists. That makes searching for their origins extra difficult, as they will not have made last wills or bought houses or something like that. I did find one last will of a member of this family, but that one was from 1782 and it doesn't go back to the beginnings. My advice for you will be to join Anasao Hebraica, work with us, and see the registers that so far have not been put online because they have not been indexed yet. You will be very welcome to help us out and in the process discover new facts about family Nunez Cardozo. The families in Nunez Cardozo in Amsterdam and London do not match so far, but I did find one, Jacob Nunez Cardozo, and the marriage banns of Amsterdam on the 15th of January, 1683. And that gives us origin Bayonne. Now that we have more or less ruled out Amsterdam, and I do rule out Hamburg as well, it may be that you have to look in the southwest of France. And that means that, again, there will be no Jewish sources, except for Bordeaux, where there is um, uh, a minute book that starts in 1710. And for the rest, you are looking at Christian sources, parish sources, baptisms, births, marriages, and these indeed do have the names of Jews because they pretended to be Catholic for to keep the peace. And there you will find them under their Portuguese names, and that makes it, in this case, easier. For Nunez Cardozo is a Portuguese name. It's not a name that was made up in London or in Amsterdam. Second source that is very important are the notarial archives of the southwest of France, and they are there for Bordeaux, for the city of Bordeaux, for the county of Bordeaux, for Bayonne, and for a host of other places in the southwest of France. But they are vast. And the ones from Bayonne are online, but the ones from Bordeaux are difficult. And of course, we do not know for sure that Isaac the David Nunez Cardozo or Moses Nunez Cardozo came from the southwest of France. They could also have come directly from Portugal. And I found no direct links in the Inquisition archives. The name of Nunez Cardozo is not to be found in the processes. But there may be other places where you can find them. And all of these methods are difficult because the sources are vast and the language is French. And then if you go back to Portugal, it's of course in Portuguese. But who knows? Maybe something will turn up in the notarial archives of Amsterdam at some point of time. So take a look there as well. And join Anasao Hebraica. The Chavez family I found more difficult to research because there are many of them. And there's more than one family, the Chavez, in London alone. So I left that alone for the time being, but I'll come back to that.
In the chat, Alan mentioned that the Cardoso family appeared in the 1695 census, which Richard also knew. But Richard is also asking a subsidiary question, which is easier, about the Nunez Martinez family.
I missed that.
Okay, that was just in the chat. No, I can say, I mean, there's still Nunez Martinez in Bevis Marks synagogue, and I seem to remember they are traced back to somewhere in Portugal. It could be Porto, and I think it's a Jose Nunez Martinez, but I can't remember. But I
First,
think that's a
let's
family that came
say they
direct to
can be
London.
traced back to Amsterdam, but it's a different family because it appears under the name Nunez, Paz Martinez, Nunez Martinez.
Okay, I'm just trusting what I was told in synagogue.
Or maybe I'm confusing Paz Martinez and Nunez Martinez.
Possibly. But we can check that. We have two questions from Carrie. I'll ask them separately. I've traced my Spania line back to my 11th great grandfather, to Moses Spania, who died in Stadthagen, Germany in 1617. Can't get further back to Spain. That's pretty early, to be honest. Do you have any thoughts on that, Ton?
Well, the name Spaniard does not necessarily have anything to do with Spain, and the family is Ashkenazic, as far as I know. And the further difficulty is that if his name has to do with Spain, and he is named Spanier, he will have been named Spanier after he left Spain. So in Spain, he will have had another name. And 1617 is awfully early already. So you will have to find some documents in 1617 or close to that date in Germany itself that make a reference to Spain, to a place of origin or something like that, or to family members, or to an alias. And if that's not there, then it's almost impossible, I would say.
Unless perhaps there's a direct male line Spanier who can be sort of held down and have DNA extracted to test, because that might say if or might show if it might be Sephardic or Ashkenazi. Carrie's second question is I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the first name. Descher, Deschere. My Descher stroke Teixeira line back to my 5th great grandfather, born in Hamburg about 1750. I can't go further back in the Teixeira line in Hamburg that left Hamburg for Amsterdam and London and came originally to Hamburg from Portugal. Well, Teixeira is obviously Portuguese.
It's not clear to me that Dijsselbroek is the same as Teixeira. It could be phonetically, and I remember a discussion on the Sephardic diaspora about these two families.
One second. Carrie, you've unmuted. Do you want to say something? I'm sorry, you're coming across in like cartoon voice. I'm sorry, can you type instead? It's like Mickey Mouse.
May I suggest that you put your comment in chat, because it's for us it's unintelligible what you are saying. There must be something with your connection, I suppose.
I think so. If you want to type that, just looking through the chat, Ali says that Jose Nunes Martinez seems to be the earliest member of the Nunes Martinez family. Kevin Martin, Zichron Lebracha, told me he never managed to find out where he came from. And Richard also says Jose is the earliest he has. He married Sarah Nunes Cardozo in 1711. Have a copy of the Ketubah. As I said, I seem to remember the family telling me that they came direct to London from Portugal, but that's just anecdotal. Carrie, do you want to?
Seem to remember that I read somewhere that Nunez Martinez. Um, um, I met a Nunez Martinez in London,
Yes.
and he told me that he never found out where from Portugal he came from, and he has done extensive research.
Don't know, maybe a different one.
What we would like to see is an alias, not of Nunez Martinez, because that's perfectly Portuguese, but of his given name. And then we can do in the Inquisition archives.
Yes. Or the other thing is, I'm not sure actually if the family members who go to synagogue have had DNA tests. Carrie hasn't written anything, but we can go back if he does. Our next question is from Lionel, who says, I've been fairly successful in researching my great-grandparents, Cancino, Levi, Belisha, Benoliel, Sequeira from Gibraltar and Portugal, also the Ardites from Bulgaria. However, my grandmother's family from Izmir and Livorno have not been so easy. Do you have any resources I can use? Son, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Livorno. I looked at two books. One from Renzo Toaf. He mentions the Cancino family only once, and I did not have time to look up the other names. But Renzo Toaf wrote a book about Livorno, and he may have those names. Cancino only once. And there's, funny enough, Lionel Levy, who wrote a book about also about Livorno and Tunis and Amsterdam. And the book is essentially names dropping. And these names come from there, these names are there. But he gives sources. So that book could also be consulted. The archives of Livorno are online. There's a birth register, there are minute books, and there are some other registers. Not the complete archives, but there's enough to start on. And the birth register has a nice index. And then there's the work that has been done by Alain Nedjar and his co-workers, his wife and two others. He wrote a monumental book, Ketubot of Livorno, in two languages, English and French. And it's essentially an index, and a very extensive index on all the Ketubot that he could find from Livorno. I looked at the name Cancino, it's in there 10 to 12 times. Now, you can buy those books through the website of the Cercle Genealogical Society. But Last time I spoke Alan, he said he was nearly sold out. At €50, these books are cheap, considering the work that went into it, the, um, the amount of pages that you get, 1,000 pages, all in all. It's a monument, and it's worth having if you are researching Livorno. I believe that David, you had something to say about Izmir. Well, I'll take.
Well, really nothing beyond what you have said. I don't like to do self-promotion, but a lot of the links Tom mentioned you can find on my own website, sephardicgenealogy.com, and that will hopefully sort of save you a little time on search engines. So there seem to be a lot of comments and questions on YouTube. Bruno, back to the Abraham of Hungary family. Bruno says that Abraham was also often the name given to converts to Judaism by rabbis. I don't know if that's a Ashkenazi equivalent of Western Sephardim calling people Israel or some such. That's interesting. Pedro says the last names in my family are Maduro and Marchena. Do you know where they came from? The Maduro came from Portugal, but I'm not sure what happened before 1500. And Marchena, I don't know much of. Per the tradition, we're from Aruba, and we carried the name of Levi Maduro, but it changed with time. The problem is I can only trace the family until Portugal before they moved to Holland. Well, that's pretty good, I would have thought. But Tom, do you have any thoughts?
No.
Yeah, I think Pedro, you might have got back as far as we can get until the Catholic records from Portugal have been sort of digitized and indexed. Okay. Nis says, how to get more information, please. Stuck at great-grandfather born in Tangier, Aaron Salama. Apparently his ancestors' name was de Salamanca in 1492, cut name to sound Arabic to Salama, moved to Casablanca. Possibly. Raquel Levy Toledano has a Facebook group on Moroccan Jewry, and do you have other suggestions, Tom?
If it's Morocco, you can try to join the group started by Raquel Levy Toledano and put your questions there.
Yes. Also, Jacob Marachi researches on Morocco. He's actually also, I think, one of the admins of that Facebook group. Do we off the top of our heads remember the name of the Facebook group?
It's in French. Juif du Marocain.
Yeah. Probably some genealogy des Juifs de Maroc or something, but I'm sure if you search, you will find. Bruno mentions on that Salama's a common name from Spanish Morocco, mostly in Tetuan and Melilla, but also in Tangier, Larache, Asila, and Ksa El Kabir. In 1920s, many Jews in the Spanish area moved to Casablanca.
You could take a look at the books by Beider.
Oh, good point. Yes, books by Alexander Beider, which you can hopefully find in your local Jewish genealogical library, or you can buy through the Avotenu website. Okay, Thabani says, I'm trying to trace the origins of our ancestors who left Portugal during the time of the Spanish Inquisition. He settled in Mozambique. His name was Gouveia. Is it possible to get some clues? I mean, I suppose the first question is, are you confident that this person was a new Christian rather than just a regular Portuguese person? And I'm afraid Mozambican records are not my forte. Ton, I'm sure you're the expert on the subject.
We have an answer from Carrie.
Okay, so can we just finish this one first, though? I mean, I think it's really challenging because we don't, of course, unless you have actual evidence, you don't know that the family is New Christian, and I'm afraid I don't know what records might be in Maputo or somewhere else in Mozambique, and what records the Portuguese would have taken home with them when they got kicked out. I guess it's a matter of tracing back through the Portuguese colonial records and then the church records and seeing where it leads. But yeah, I'm afraid not, can't be more help than that. So sorry, Ton, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Carrie wrote, the names Deshire and Teixeira were used interchangeably by the same families. Studemund Halevi said they were the same. Deshire is the German version. My cousin Ken Deshire had a Y DNA test which matches males from converso families. His autosomal DNA is 5% Iberian. I have distant cousin autosomal matches from Portugal, Spain, and Latin America. Well, of course, Studemund Halevi is not just somebody. So if he says that families are the same, then they probably are. Well, how to go about that? The family Teixeira left Hamburg around 1700 for the larger part. Not many of them stayed behind. And they moved to Amsterdam and The Hague. And the Amsterdam notarial archives are beginning to come online and are indexed more and more. And also part of it has been put through Transkibus and can be researched through read and search. All of that through the website of the Amsterdam City Archives. It's a well-known family. It was a rich family, so there are a lot of notarial documents concerning that family. And if there's a link to the Deshire family, then that should appear there as well. But these archives are vast, and the family Teixeira is mentioned a lot of times in there. So if you go through those records, you need to understand just a little bit of Dutch. If you're lucky, there will be notarial deeds in German, since the family came from Germany. So I would try my luck there, but I also went through to The Hague, and The Hague also has notarial archives, and they are partly indexed, and the index is online as well as the notaries themselves. But the website of the city archives of The Hague are not very friendly for users. So it takes some time to work out how it works and how to find the index and how to find the names in the index. But I wrote about that a little piece that we put uh, in our mail shot, um, announcing our talks, and it was there a few weeks or a few months ago. So if you look that up, and if you can't get the hang of it, I am willing to help out to find your way there. But then it's a question of uh, following the leads that the index gives and to read the original notarial deeds.
And at the risk of sounding like a computer sort of helpline, this could be a hardware issue, and that maybe you should, if the Y-DNA has already been tested and matches something, maybe speak with the Avatenu DNA projects of Adam, Michael, and Raquel. We've got millions of questions online. Catherine says, I'm trying to locate the origins of my Russo roots. My grandparents said they were Jews from Spain and left for Russia and then went to Sicily. I was able to trace them to Sicily, but not before that. The part of Sicily that I can find went back to 1530. Do you know if there was a place in Spain where the Russo name may have been? I curious about the claim on Russia, because I think Russo is a fairly Spanish name. Tom, do you have any? I mean, are we even confident that this is Jewish? Okay, no, so further down, sorry. She says, many of my family were murdered in Palermo in 1520 to 1560 for practicing Judaism. Over 35 were burnt at the stake. So that suggests that she has evidence of the family being Jewish. I mean, my sort of cheat, my shortcut is always to go to Alexander Bider's book, particularly a dictionary of Jewish surnames from Italy, France, and Portuguese communities. Actually, my computer is sitting on top of my copy as we speak, because what Bider will do is he will give just first of all tell you where he has records of the name coming from, and then he'll give the source, so you can go to the sources and hopefully find something more.
So there was a series of, I believe, 7 books, but it may have grown since a few years ago. It's called The Jews of Sicily, I believe, and it has documentary sources for the Middle Ages concerning Jews in Sicily. So find those, and maybe you'll find the name Russo in them.
Thank you. John says, I've traced back to 2 ancestors from late 1500s Marsala, Sicily, with Spanish origin surnames, Bartolomeo Rodriguez and Pietro Garcia. What is the likelihood that either of these could be a Sephardic name? And if so, what resources would you suggest to further investigate? Well, perhaps I can go first on that, because it's one of my bugbears. Sephardic surnames, really, there are Iberian surnames, which are also used by New Christians, the name we give to converted Jews, and to Sephardic Jews. And often these surnames would be adopted from local Christian families for various reasons, even of course at baptism. The idea of Sephardic surnames was, I don't think it was invented, but it was certainly popularized in the very early internet by a gentleman called Harry Stein, who's no longer with us, who created a website in 1998 called Sephardim.com, and he also had an early precursor of a Facebook group. And he also plastered across the early internet that more or less any surname that had ever been used by a Jew was Jewish, and this is erroneous. And later, actually, he started to correct himself, but I think the damage had been done, and this got picked up by others in the early 2000s and quietened down a bit until the Spanish and Portuguese nationality laws, when lots of law firms basically took this old list from Sephardim.com and reused it. So really, John, I think what you need to do is to trace back and see if there is a evidence of an ancestor who was a Jew or a new Christian, and otherwise on the balance of probability that the family were not Jewish, but of course anything is possible. Ton, do you have anything to?
Harry Stein was not on Facebook.
No,
Yeah,
I said a precursor to Facebook. It was
Yahoo
a Yahoo chat group, I think it was called.
still there in the Wayback Machine, I believe. And it has thousands upon tens of thousands of messages. And it's all organized by date. And it's not searchable. So it's there, but it costs a lot of time to go through it all.
And I seem to recall Tom was expelled from the group for
Twice.
calling out the nonsense. um, uh, Nunja says, are you aware of the De la Mora y Hurtado de Mendoza? They came from Spain and founded the Jalisco region in, sorry, I mispronounced, in Mexico. They descend from the Halevi family through Dona Francisca Nunez. I am no expert on, I am a Mendoza, well, a sort of Mendoza. I'm no expert on Mexico, and I'm sure that's completely unrelated family. So the answer is, am I aware? No. Obviously the Mexican National Archives contain a lot of Inquisition records, and a lot over the years have, by various means, found their way into American university libraries. And of course, there's the AHN in Spain. I'm not really sure what to suggest beyond that. I'm guessing actually there probably is some quite sophisticated genealogy going on in Mexico. So maybe it's just worth finding a local group. Oh, there's more. One of their relatives, Nicolas de Chavez Romero, carried the J2Y DNA haplogroup. This can be found on the Jalisco family tree DNA group. I don't know. I don't know with DNA. I mean, I think the thing is if there is a match, because if you think about the Iberian Peninsula, with people who might have come, have origins, for example, in Israel or the Near East. First, we have the Phoenicians going there, who their DNA might have been indistinguishable with Israelites. Later, we have the Phoenicians who are descended. Sorry, the Carthaginians who are descended from the Phoenicians who go there. We have a very large number of Jews who are after the revolt against the Romans ceased being Jewish, and possibly later then identified as Arabs or Muslims and so on, and could have arrived in the Iberian Peninsula as Arabs. So it's really quite difficult, I think, from just the DNA to work anything out. I think the thing is to find a match, and again, that is through the Avatenu DNA group. And on the YouTube channel, you can find a number of presentations by Adam Brown, Raquel Levy Toledano, and others involved in that project. Tom, is there anything?
Yeah, back to Italy for a moment.
Okay.
Carrie has put a link into chat that has surnames of converso families from southern Italy. Diana Lyon Reed asks, do you know if the name Alberga is Sephardic and where it may have originated? Some of my Jamaican ancestors were Alberga, and I failed to trace it. The name sounds familiar, and I would say don't go to Spain directly, but first look for that name in London and Amsterdam. So that's what Ali Ergensoy confirms. There are alberga in London. There's this myth that Jews lived on Jamaica under Spanish rule. And when the English conquered the island in 1656, those Jews were still there. We were happy to see the English come. But I personally, I think that all or almost all of the Jews that came to Jamaica came after 1656, and they came from London or Amsterdam.
Thank you. We missed a question earlier from Alan. I'm interested in the 1857 marriage of Jacob Julian, in brackets, Henrique Julien, to Rosa Hart in Manchester. The civil registration cites the Jews' synagogue. The marriage is unusual in that Jacob and Rosa have been living as husband and wife for at least 7 years, with both daughters' registrations and the 1851 census. Are there any Manchester synagogue records that would shed light on this? They lived in Manchester from 1854 to 1868. What I would suggest is to speak with Lydia Collins. She is the librarian of the Jewish Genealogical Society of Great Britain, and she literally wrote the book on the Sephardim of Manchester. And if she doesn't, no, I mean, if she doesn't know, then nobody will, because as well as her own work, she's in charge of the JSGB library. If you're in London, they actually had an open day today. You can go along to the library, which is in Knightsbridge at Westminster Synagogue. Sorry, I can see Alan leaning forward. I don't know if he's written anything. There's a comment from Bernard on Mexico. On Mexico last Thursday on the East Sepharad series of talks, there was one on the mikvahs discovered in the northeast of Mexico. There were 3 speakers, all academics involved in the Jewish and Sephardic research. The talk is available on YouTube in Spanish. He gives a link. I don't think I can't actually put the link into YouTube. It doesn't let me. But if you go to the eSepharad website, eSepharad YouTube page, you'll find the talk there. Elaine asks, are there any websites specifically about Jews from Sicily? Probably, but I think that there's some lady rabbi that gives out certificates to people telling them they're Jewish, and I think she's interested in Sicily. I'm not sure of the the expertise though behind that, but I don't know. Yeah. Oh, somebody on here actually just mentioned I had to hire a special genealogist in Sicily. He's a professor at Florence University that is approved by the Bet Din in Israel. And he went to the various towns and did some research. Okay, so find a professor in Florence. Somebody, Fernando was asking, he says, what about Sepulveda? Presumably just is that surname connected? Sepulveda sounds quite Catholic to me. Doesn't mean there's not a Jewish family with that name, but has anyone come across a Sepulveda family? Again, the obvious thing is to go to Alexander's Dictionary of Jewish Surnames from Italy, France, and the Portuguese communities. How Music says, I've done a big Y700 and created a branch with a Sephardic man whose lineage is Paez, fled Spain to Portugal, then to Mexico. The lineage is Caribbean Jewish via Puerto Rico, and we're both Avatenu members. That's kind of interesting because I've heard claims of people in Puerto Rico, but not seen any evidence. So that's interesting. Sorry, there's a conversation going on between people in the group.
Oh, in the meantime, does any of our patrons have a question? Then you can raise your hand. Okay.
I have a suggestion, and it's about Latin America, and it is that it's probably worth contacting the Sepharad people, and you can go to their website, which is sepharad.com, and simply write to them. They have done hundreds of talks with a lot of serious academics, as well as some very interesting, flaky people. But they could certainly put you in contact if you're looking for particularly Latin American connections. And also, they are very good on Turkey and Greece because of the migrations from there to South America. So they've got a lot of connections there. All of their talks, as far as I know, have been in Spanish or occasionally Portuguese or Ladino or Hakatia, which, if you understand Spanish, is going to be totally intelligible. But they have got enormous resources and do know who's doing what. And I think that it's kind of sad that their work is not known outside the Spanish-speaking world, and I have invited them to do a presentation to the JGSGB sometime next year on the work that they've covered. So try their website, esefarad.com. You can write to them in English if you don't know Spanish, but obviously the sources that they have built up are going to be mainly Spanish, Portuguese, or Ladino and Hakatia, but very valuable and covering ground that we tend to miss, and particularly useful for the not just the Latin American, for the American connections.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've gone through all the questions that we have received. If anyone has another question, ask now or forever keep your peace. No, I think that's it. Tom, do you want to?
This was Sephardic World brought to you by the Sephardic Genealogical Society. This was our contribution to the European Days of Jewish Culture. We hope to see you all in 2 weeks' time. And then we will have a very interesting speaker about a very, very interesting subject, namely the family Symbol and the family Busaglo. He will publish his book about these families on the Sunday after he speaks to us. So it's quite a scoop. It's very fresh and new research. And he has traveled all over Europe and other places to visit archives to be able to write this book. So I think it will be very interesting. It will show how interconnected the Sephardic world is and was. So we hope to see you all in 2 weeks' time. And as always, our thanks to our patrons who support us and make all of this possible, and to our viewers on YouTube. See you.